here to welcome Martin Fliegenschnee-Jaksch from the Austrian Wind Energy Association, an association which is representing the Austrian wind sector and with a strong interest in keeping your national wind sector strong, and particular in these special times. But I think you have a special also situation within Europe at this point of time. Martin, warm welcome to Austria, and I hand over to you.
Hello, Stefan. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. I will present the Austrian situation, the small country in the heart of Europe. I hope everybody can see the slides. The Austrian situation, we are the Association for Wind Energy in Austria. We are representing members who own windmills, who develop windmills. We are presenting the companies that build windmills, and we have also a big supply chain in Austria, 180 members, 180 companies in Austria with a revenue of 400 million euros per year. So a short overlook how wind energy has started in Austria. As I've told, Austria is a small country in the middle of Europe, and the wind energy history started in 1990. At this time, the experts in Austria say there is not enough wind in Austria. Although there are measurements more than 100 years, this was the opinion of the experts. This was a time shortly after the explosion of the atomic power plant in Chernobyl, and this incident, this sad incident, made a push in some people in Austria, and they started in groups, do-it-yourself initiatives, who try to look by themselves if there is really no wind. So they constructed wind measurements on maypoles. They calibrate the wind measurements by driving in cars on the motorway and puts the measurements out of the window to calibrate the measurements. If they and so they find the wind energy, the wind in Austria, mainly in Rheinviertel and in the Burgenland in the far east of Austria. Austria is the wind energy in Austria has a very strong connection to the local population. Many people get co-owners of the power plants. At the moment, there are 16,000 people financially involved in wind projects. But meanwhile, the situation has also changed a little bit. Also, the big utilities in Austria are engaged in wind energy, and at the moment, the biggest wind energy producer is a utility. Again, the wind map, here you can see the red dots are the sites where the wind is blowing the most. You can see is in the far east of Austria, because there we have the situation that we can use the west wind system from the Atlantic Sea and the east wind system from the continent, and on this small stripe from in the far east. Look here in this region, there is a wind best, and it's like in sites in Germany near the coast. If you look at the criteria for success for wind energy, there's 3 main criteria that has to be fulfilled. You need stability for the system, national targets, and you need regulations that fit with the targets. If you look at the numbers at the moment, Austria has reached to build up more than 3,000 megawatt capacity and we have 11% electricity consumption in Austria by wind energy. So it looks like a very good and a very success story. But if you look a little bit closer, let's look at the stability part. Here you can see that the development in Austria was not that stable. The first big push was set by the first national feed-in system we had. The installations run up very fast, but only for 3.5 years, because then the politicians get cold feet because the system works that well, and changed the system in the middle of 2006 and brought a 5-year standstill in the installation of Austria. This is the situation. If you have not a stability in the system, the installation of wind energy can't go forward. Also, if it is a feed-in system, stability in the system is very important. Then we had another sad incident in Fukushima, also an explosion of an atomic power plant. In Austria, the situation is that the population is hard against atomic power. We had an exit poll in 1978. Since then, Austria is against atomic power and has closed his nearly ready atomic power station. So Austria has no atomic power use, and therefore such incidents are very pushing also on the government side. And so we get a change in the system again, a system that worked very well for the first four years. But we had the politicians implement a part in the system as a cap. So there was a financial cap that said that only a certain amount of money can be spent for the installations. And because of the hard running down electricity prices in the middle of the last decade, we had the situation that the money doesn't reach for getting all turbines on the ground that are licensed, so that they have to wait for many years to get their feed-in tariff. And again, we managed to change the feed-in system 2 times in 2017 and 2019, so that these turbines that are waiting in a long row can be built in the next 4 years. So the result of this is you need a stability in the system. This is the most important thing, and it is not very healthful if there are many changes in the system many times a year. The second part, national high targets. Austria has high targets for many years. If you look, I take one example. Since 2015, Austria proclaims getting 100% renewable power in 2030. So we had this target since 2015 in Austria. Where are we now? Yes, we have still this 100% renewable power target in 2030. The new government has strengthened these targets. We have climate neutrality 2040. So we want to be 10 years earlier climate neutral, and Austria wants to get a front runner in Europe if you look at climate protection and the build out of renewable energies. So if you look at the targets, everyone must think, yes, Austria is on the right way. But if you look at the concrete figures, it looks a little bit different. Austrian is a giant for targets, but sad but true, a Dwarf for measures and actions. Look at the emissions we had, the CO2 emissions, the change of the CO2 emissions the last year. Austria is on the very last positions, the fourth, the second on the end, Austria has a increase in the CO2 emissions by 2.8%. In comparison, the EU level is minus 4.3%. We are far away from the targets we want to reach. And if you look also at the situation for wind energy, it's nearly the same. The dark blue bars shows the installations of the wind turbines the last years, and from 2020 to 2014, you see the bars show how the installation will go further, but the light blue bars show the installation we actually need to reach the targets Austria has. So we are also here far away from that actually is necessary. Therefore, Austria is on the way to change its system. And on the first point, you see we are the opinion that it's necessary to have a system that is with an allocation that is administrative given for 20 years. So we are strongly against the allocation via tenders. We have here also a scientific argumentation for this. So it's here. We had made a study with the Technical University in Freiburg, where we compared the feed-in system in Austria with the tender system in Germany. The study compared a 3.54 megawatt wind turbine with a certain amount of energy production, and the study looked how big is the amount of revenue you get in the German system and in the Austrian one. And the result was that you get a higher rate of return in Germany than in Austria. That shows that the feed-in system in Austria that we have now is now still more efficient than the tender system that we have in Germany at the moment. Then there was another scientific study which is made by the Technical University of Vienna. This was a modeling. This study modeled how 100% renewable energy power production could be reached in 2030. And they also tried to model the systems, how the money could be allocated. And also in this study, there was the result that if you allocate the money with administrative allocation, then the result is that it's cheaper, and it's much cheaper by more than nearly 40% than if you allocate it with a tender. So, therefore, the administrative allocation for the system 20 years is the situations like everywhere internationally. We vote for a variable premium system. This is a system that is used in many countries and is also working very well, like a feed-in system. We have this system in Germany since 2009. We had this system for many years in Spain and other countries. So we know that this system works and can give stability and the possibility to develop the turbines. Then we also vote for a reference yield model like in Germany, because we are the opinion that it's more efficient for the system to install the turbines not only at the sites where the wind blows most, but to build the windmills in the whole country, because it's cheaper. You you can reduce the development of the grid, because you have the turbines there where the electricity is needed, and you have turbines that produce electricity in different times, because wind also in Austria don't blow at all sides at the same time, so you have diversity in the electricity production by the windmills. And of course, last but not least, you need a market design which is oriented to renewable energies, because if you have a premium system, the wind energy is acting at the electricity market, has to sell its electricity, and therefore the market design has to be in place and has to be marketable also for renewable energies. Now, only at last one point that is also crucial: acceptance is discussed very often at the moment in Europe. We can show that the situation in Austria with the big support of the public and the big financial part of the public in the wind turbines brought a good result. You look, we made since 10 years exit polls. This is the last we made last year. We have very good figures, and the interesting point is that in these regions where the windmills are installed, the support is the most. Like in Lower Austria and in Burgenland, the support is the highest. And a last slide from my side. We also ask every year the impact on the personal quality life, and it's very interesting to see that people who live in regions where wind power is installed, the 42% say that the wind power plants have a positive impact of their personal quality life, a very positive view at the end, because we need the acceptance of the public, but the figure shows that this is possible and they could support us. So then, thank you very much for being here and being at this webinar. If you have any questions, I'm glad to answer it.
Thank you so much, Martin. It's a great pleasure, and I think it's really good to hear your perspective in a country that is not so far from 100% renewable power, but still see, you have to see how you make that final step. Please